Hello and welcome to What's Cooking Rutland. I'm Bethany Yon. I'm a nutritionist at the Vermont Department of Health and part of Rutland's Nutrition Coalition that brings you this show each month. And here we are, it's November. I think we can finally say happy fall. It was such a warm fall. But for the month of November, we are kicking off officially. Halloween is done, so the holidays. And so thinking about what's coming up for holidays and thinking about squashes. So this is our sweet potato show. And joining me is my farmer friend, foodie friend, all of those fabulous words together, Yvonne Brunot, who is with Right Mind Farm.
I am.
And we love to bake, and so we just have a lot of foodie things in common. And so we have really this kind of mishmash, diverse set of recipes in mind today, featuring sweet potatoes as well as a few other squashes that we've decorated the set with here.
We have some true autumn vegetable happiness happening today.
There you go. Well said. Yay. And so we're going to bake up some sweet potato ginger muffins. So thinking about the morning after Thanksgiving, what do you do with some of those leftovers? So we've got a few things that'll go on the Thanksgiving table, and then a few things that are going to like, now what? So now what? As well as kind of sort of filtering through, it's been a few years since we've talked about vegetarians or vegans, the folks who don't eat things with faces at your table. And so we've got some ideas for some vegetarian meals
and main courses, right?
As opposed to everybody just eats side dishes. So without further ado, because we have stuff to get in the oven, we're going to just jump right in with some muffins and then move to a veggie galette. Oh gosh, fancy words. So excited. So these muffins are Yvonne, so go for it. Talk to us about the day after Thanksgiving.
So you're going to have things left over. Everybody knows how to handle the turkey. Everybody knows how to make turkey sandwiches and turkey soup and turkey hash. Okay, we're done with that. Now you've got these wonderful vegetables that somebody made, and you know, the whole like kind of Thanksgiving harvest allure may be a little gone, but it's still kind of looming in the background, and you want to have kind of a nice morning after brunch. So I have a recipe here for sweet potato, actually ginger sweet potato muffins. I like the emphasis because I love ginger and I love sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are a wonderful vegetable. They're from the morning glory family, and they are just packed with all this good stuff that everybody needs. They're one of my favorite orange foods, right? They've got tons of beta carotene, they got tons of fiber, and they are so versatile, and you know, they're wonderful. And I've baked a good sized sweet potato, enough to get me like about 3/4 of a cup here. And now I'm going to add wet ingredients to this to make my muffins. I've already mixed my dry ingredients. This is my flour, salt, baking powder, and flour, salt, baking powder, and baking soda. So my leavening agents and my flour are there. My sweet potatoes here, and now I just have to add the other wet ingredients. So I'm going to crack a couple of eggs in here.
And so the nice thing, so we have this one piece of sweet potato here that's left from Yvonne's playing, and so this is just a simple roasted sweet potato. So
you can take your sweet potatoes when you need to roast them, which is one of the best ways to eat them because it preserves a lot of the vitamins. I take my sweet potatoes and you repeatedly stick them with the prongs of a fork, and then you put them in your oven at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes, and that should do it. They should cook all the way through.
And that's, you know, so you can kind of get a sense from this one that it might be more of a medium-sized sweet potato. I'm thinking sometimes I've had sweet potatoes that are really long and skinny. They're almost carrot-looking.
Your results may vary.
It depends on your garden, exactly. So the time is going to be a little different. And then opposite end of the spectrum, in our little bowl here in front, I have got this like ridiculously huge sweet potato.
That's a 2 dinner sweet potato.
This is at least
easily.
a 2 dinners. Like this is a pounder here. So this one, to roast it, I would probably cut it into pieces. Otherwise, it's going to be in the oven all day long.
So
indeed. But But yeah, and the nice thing about roasting sweet potatoes is you just don't have to worry so much about the outside being perfectly clean because you're going to peel it anyway.
Right. Now, one of the things about this muffin recipe that I truly, truly love is that it's quite versatile. Sweet potatoes are versatile. They go with savory herbs. They go with baking spices. So this recipe is on the sweet side, but the marvelous thing about it is I'm beating eggs right now, and I am going to add other ingredients. It can easily be, it's a vegetarian recipe now,
Right.
easily can be vegan.
Right.
If you know how to make eggs with flax meal, you take 2, for each egg, you use a teaspoon of flax meal, and you add, I believe, 2 teaspoons of water. And you let it sit, and the flax meal will become gelatinous. The mistake a lot of bakers make is they don't wait for the gelatinous stage. Please wait, otherwise you don't get the lift that you need from them. So you can use those instead of eggs. And this recipe also calls for skim milk. Skim milk, I'm not a milk person. I do a low dairy diet. The other thing you can do if you want to make this a vegan recipe is I'm going to use regular coconut milk.
Yeah.
And coconut milk imparts this nice
Really nice
sweetness
flavor.
and this wonderful coconutty flavor. And if you use real coconut milk, not coconut cream, but coconut milk, it just blends so well with the sweetness, the earthiness of
Yum.
the coconut. So I'm eyeballing my measure.
Oh, see, I'm here. I'm in a kitchen with a real cook eyeballing things. Being Bethany, who's like stuck to recipes and following things.
And these should smell marvelous, marvelous when they're baked. Now the other fantastic flavor that is going to go into these, I think this is just speaking to my Caribbean roots, is we're going to use crystallized ginger. And there is also, in the seasonings for this, there's also powdered ginger. I got to say that in general, if you can grate your ginger and use ginger root, which I do have here, I have some grated ginger root. You can see it's got that beautiful yellowish color, that another lovely harvest color. That's fine, but most powdered ginger, especially if you can get it nice and fresh from a bulk supplier like a co-op, like our co-op, you can in fact get really nice, that wonderful aromatic taste that ginger imparts.
So I love it. So it's a ginger sweet potato recipe, and
Right.
it really is like this triple ginger. So
Right.
you've got powdered ginger in there, the crystallized going in, as well as grated ginger.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I will have to share. I've got a cookie recipe that's got
Wonderful. I'm
all
like a ginger
varieties.
junkie.
Yeah.
I'm ready to
Love
do another
ginger.
ginger show whenever
Perfect.
you want,
We will do that
Bethany.
this winter.
That sounds good to me. It's one of the best tastes of the season. So the recipe calls for about a 1/4 cup, and I'm just mincing my crystallized ginger. So there we go. So we've got our dried ingredients. We've got ground ginger and spices over here in our dry ingredients. And now I have just added my coconut milk, and we're going to add some vanilla right quick. And 1½ teaspoons of vanilla, or the wondrous thing that I have right here is a ½ tablespoon.
Yes. Yeah.
So I only have to use 1 spoon.
Yep.
So that's going right in.
3 teaspoons to a tablespoon.
Right, it's perfect. And then I need 3 tablespoons of canola oil.
I would even be tempted to use some olive oil.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
because it's just going to, it's
Oh,
not going to come out too
absolutely.
olivey. Sometimes I worry about olive oil in baking, it's too olivey, but I've started using olive oil in baking with things that have really strong flavors, and it's been
Oh, Bethany,
really
I
a
have
lovely
got
surprise.
to tell you, one time I had the best chocolate cake. It was made with olive
Olive
oil.
oil.
Sounds like a bad idea, but I am here to tell you.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
amazing.
very, very yummy.
Yeah, it was quite good. So now I'm beating up my wet ingredients. I've got my coconut milk in here. I'm adding my grated ginger. I'm getting these wet ingredients ready to go. And I also have some brown sugar, which I am not surprised to find out goes with the other wet ingredients. I mean dry ingredients. Here we go. I'll tell you right now, if you don't have time for this AR kind of setup that I've got here, you know, if they all get mixed together and they don't get beaten too much, you will get some pretty nice muffins.
Right.
Again, sweet potato flavor goes with so many things. You can try a lot of variations. You can try doing half wheat flour, half white flour.
Yep.
You can try half white flour, half wheat pastry flour if you want them to be a little lighter. Just remember, when you use other whole grain flours that are not refined, you have to add a little bit more moisture somewhere else. So you might add a little bit more sweet potato, you might add a little bit more milk. We will be able to tell when we mix this up together if we've got the right texture for the muffins. You want it to be a nice, wet batter. It's going to be moist. Some people are fans of coconut flour, which I'm a big fan of. If you use coconut flour,
that's really going to dry stuff out.
It dries things out. It has so much fiber in it, so you should definitely use anywhere from a 1/4 cup to maybe 1/3 of a cup more moisture. But you should have runny if you use a lot of coconut, and I don't recommend using all coconut. If you use coconut flour, make sure you compensate for that moisture. Okay, so here we go. This is where the magic happens. I'm gonna just take these dry, oh wait a minute, we do it the other way. I make a well in my dry ingredients here, and then I add my wet ingredients. Now I'm just double checking to make sure I've got everything added in. Good. I'm notorious for making baked goods with no eggs in them. So here we go.
And I love it. So the home ec teacher in me was just going, right, you make the well and the dry ingredients, then you add the liquid ingredients. But you know, I've come across so many recipes that just kind of throw everything together now that sometimes I wonder. But I think that your key point there is that you just don't want to overstir so that you don't end up with, you know, too much gluten going on.
Right, exactly. When you make bread, you need it a lot because you want those gluten bonds. The gluten is the protein, and you want those gluten bonds so you get that nice airy, you get that nice, those nice cathedral bubbles that you get in a good loaf of bread. Here, we're trying to make something chewy and moist. So you're just mixing it. As you see how I'm mixing it with a spatula, I am just getting the dry ingredients wet, and then we're going to stop. When this is a nice uniform color, we're going to stop. And see, I'm seeing already that since this is not quite as thin as
milk.
Skim milk would be,
so you need some more liquid.
I'm going to add some more liquid because dry muffins aren't criminal, but they're not that much fun.
No.
So.
And the whole point of having that sweet potato in there is really to add a lot of, you know, beautiful moisture.
Right on. There we go.
So those look great. So those are going to go into muffin tins to pop into the oven. While that's happening, I'm going to start putting together this galette dough. I've done some ahead so it's ready to rock and roll because it needed to be chilled. But this is a nice pie crust recipe. And so we've got some regular flour in here, and I'm also going to use some whole wheat pastry flour. So Yvonne was just talking about adding some of those different whole grains. And so doing exactly that, almost kind of a 50-50. And then a couple of pinches of salt. And then this calls for a couple of sticks of butter. And so butter that's cold and then cut into really small pieces. So I'm going to toss this into this food processor.
Oh, okay. Here we go. This is the exciting part.
I know, really kind of fun. And so this roasted vegetable galette, I've roasted a whole bunch of different veggies already, some carrots and parsnips and butternut squash and shallots with some rosemary. So we're just going to pull. So it's looking pretty good. It has just a little crumbly, sandy texture.
Ooh, exciting.
And then the key here is to use cold water. And I should have gotten some cold water going ahead of time. But this is pretty cold. And I'm going to start by throwing in 1/4 cup and see what that does. And so similar to having to add a little bit more of the coconut milk, we might need to add a little bit more for this dough to come together. starting to form, but it's going to need a little bit more liquid.
Alright, so now I'm adding my batter to these poor little first-time use parchment cups that are having a personal crisis here.
What's that?
See, my little
oh yeah,
muffin
you're
cups.
duking it out with muffin cups. Yeah.
Yes, I
so
am.
we don't need to look at duking out with muffin cups.
Right.
So instead,
They'll
we can
make
take
it.
a peek at this this dough. So out of the food processor came this beautiful hunk of dough, this
Well, look at
whole
that.
grain. I know, it's like I am really becoming inspired to use a food processor for pastry. I have always used it for my pizza doughs, but not pastry.
Yep.
But in order for this to be roll-outable because of all of the butter that's in here, it really needs to be chilled. So this would get wrapped up in plastic wrap and thrown into the refrigerator for at least an hour or even overnight. So I'm just going to set it aside because I've done that already, and pull out a piece that actually has been in the refrigerator overnight.
Oh, great.
This is a smaller piece because I decided to make the galette in the basic recipe into 2 different ones. And even thinking as I was playing with this at home, how fun it could be to, even if you know who you have for vegetarians at the table, for folks to have their own individual one. So you could even make them smaller.
Nice.
And
Oh, what
do
an
them in little
inspired
quarters.
idea.
Isn't that fun?
It's like having a little vegetable tart.
Exactly, exactly.
Very nice.
So I decided to bring in my little rolling out mat because sometimes it makes it a little easier.
Oh, nice.
In putting this into the refrigerator, I flattened it out into a disc to make it easier to roll out. And let's see how this works. The original recipe would say it's going to make like a 15-inch circle or so. Mine's going to be smaller because it's half of the dough.
So we're aiming for about 8 inches.
Something like that.
Okay. Okay.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. The nice thing about a galette is that it really can be rustic, so I'm not expecting to have this absolutely perfect circle.
We're emphasizing flavor here.
Flavor here
Over
with the whole
perfection.
grain crust.
Excellence
and,
rather
yeah,
than perfection.
exactly.
That's where I
So
am.
this looks about good if I do my math with inches there. And then here, so as we have our WIC code up on the screen, so for sweet potatoes this month, so call your office, let them know you've seen the show, give them the code and tell them something about a recipe that you watched, and that'll keep your WIC food benefits going. This is the mixture of veggies that I had roasted already. So the carrots, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, shallots.
Oh, wow.
What also has been added here, and I might add just a little bit more, is I roasted up some garlic. So taking a
Ooh,
big
nice
head of, I know,
touch.
isn't that fun? Taking a big head of garlic, cutting off the top, drizzling a little bit of olive oil, and then baking it in an oven for about 30 minutes.
All right, muffins are going in the
Muffins going
oven.
in, awesome.
There they go.
And so then what happens here is these cloves just kind of pull apart, and you can just squeeze these beautiful garlic cloves out. So it's been a while since I've been in a restaurant that did roasted garlic
Really?
cloves. For a while I felt
Wow.
like everyone was doing this.
It was quite a popular foodie
Very
thing for a while.
popular thing, and you just spread this roasted garlic right onto
Yep.
bread, bruschetta, anything that you might be making. I actually added quite a bit of garlic last night to these roasted veggies, so I'm only going to add a couple more cloves,
Okay.
and then I might save these for my own dinner and spreading on things.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, sounds good.
that'd be a yummy thing.
Yep.
So
Sounds quite
mashing
good.
up this garlic, and I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil and toss this with the veggies, assemble a galette. Oops. Sorry, Donna, I didn't measure. Supposed to measure with oil. But so what I'm working with isn't necessarily leftover stuff. This is thinking about what a vegetarian entree might look like for the vegetarians, or in this case, actually, so far, vegans in the house. So a little bit more mashed garlic I'm going to add to these vegetables.
Well, you know, Bethany, we have been emphasizing the fact that it's nice for our vegetarian and vegan friends to have a main course.
Yes.
But you know what? It makes Thanksgiving more interesting for everybody.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't
It has like really nice accompaniments, you know.
So
it's nice to have different options.
these veggies are just going to get tossed into the middle of this pie crust, and I like seriously over roasted the vegetables. And while you guys know me, it's all about, you know, like more is better when it comes to vegetables. When you're working with something like a galette, you have to be a little bit more careful, because if I really overload this thing, this puppy is gonna like fall apart because the crust isn't gonna be able to support it underneath. So I'm needing to be a little bit more cautious, giving a couple of inches around the edge, and then pulling in those edges, squishing it together. That is the nice thing about butter in a crust, is it makes it a little easier to squish everything on. And then we are going to throw some goat cheese on top because, yeah, super
Because why
yummy
not?
and more flavor.
Right on.
And if you do have vegans in the house, then you can do it without the goat cheese. But for those of us who aren't, yum.
I believe in that case you might use nutritional
use?
yeast.
Oh,
It gives a similar
what a brilliant
flavor.
idea. Oh, that's perfect.
Or you might slice up some nice savory mushrooms and put them on top.
Oh, you're so smart. You're so smart.
Oh,
So yeah,
mushrooms
so
are wondrous.
the goat cheese is going to go on top. And this has been out, so it's a little soft, so it's not crumbling the way goat cheese would typically crumble. And then I just need to rinse fingers. And I have a baking sheet that I've already put a piece of parchment on. And had I been thinking about what I was doing, I probably would have assembled it all right on the parchment. That didn't happen. So this ought to be fun. This is where a spatula is going to come in handy.
Bethany.
Yeah, no, none. Oh, let's see if we can actually pick this up and transfer it. Yes, score.
We're
did
victorious.
It. Awesome,
All
awesome,
right.
awesome. But
Beautiful.
normally, just to, you know, go back, rewind, and you're gonna wanna assemble on the parchment, and that way you don't have to like do this little gamble. And this would then go into an oven for about an hour. We have muffins in the oven. It's not going into the oven. So magic of television, here we go.
Seeing missing.
Ta-da!
How about that?
So this is what the galette looks like. We can get to the right camera here when it comes out of the oven. Awesome, perfect, beautiful, thank you. So been roasted up, and so really nice brown crispy. When I moved it a little bit, it starts to fall apart. But this can get cut into wedges, or again, I would invite you to think about, depending on how many folks are coming, making smaller ones, and everyone could have their own individual galette on their plate.
What a wonderful idea.
Yeah, great entree, really yummy meal. I can't wait. This is my dinner tonight, so I am super excited.
Splendid.
Yeah, very
Splendid.
yummy.
Oh my gosh.
So while I've been chitter-chattering about this sweet potato roasted vegetable galette, you have some hummus and veggies going on
Yes,
over there.
I do.
Talk to me about the hummus.
Well, hummus is, you know, is a staple in the diets of vegetarians and vegans, and it's made with the wonderful, wonderful chickpea or garbanzo bean. Wonderful, also packed full of vitamins and packed full of protein, so you get that protein and fiber double whammy from it. It's really nutritious. Well, I found this remarkable recipe for sweet potato hummus, which is great. You can toss all the ingredients in your food processor, you put them all together, you have this lovely Middle Eastern kind of earthy crossover with, you know, our regular harvest foods. So here I'm just starting to set up a veggie platter with this. So this is great. You can have something that's seasonal and familiar at the same time. Ingredients in this are lovely. And once again, because you've made it with sweet potatoes, if you want to make it savory like I did, you can add lemon juice, cumin, I added a lot of lemon juice and cumin. garlic, roasted or not. If you roast it, then the garlic flavor will be a little bit more mellow. olive oil, and tahini. And here's the remarkable thing, that tahini has that really, piquant sesame seed flavor.
Yes.
Beautiful with sweet potatoes, just beautiful. It's one of those savory flavors. It just has that wonderful vegetable earthiness that so many people like.
So we're taking Kathy's hummus done the right way from last month and turning it into a seasonal recipe by throwing in some of those leftover sweet potatoes. And that's one of the really fun things about hummus, which is evidenced in the grocery store, all the varieties. You can add so many wonderful ingredients
and you can do it your way. And because I like Moroccan flavors, I have lemon juice, cumin, and salt, a lot of salt actually, cumin and salt, garlic, and I just went for that little extra something and added a little cinnamon, because that is something that works really well with sweet potato flavor and works with those other flavors.
I love it.
So, play with it, season to your taste. It's one of those wonderful versatile things, and so many vegetarians are so happy that you've made it yourself. Good flavors to play with.
Yeah,
really,
that's
really
great.
fun.
So while you're decking out some vegetables, then the other thing we just, in our few minutes that we have left here, is Yvonne's secret family recipe for sweet potato casserole. So we are going to update your sweet potato casserole, ditch the marshmallows. Sorry, marshmallow fans, but we're just going to get rid of them. And I'm going to check your muffins. Talk to me about this sweet potato recipe.
So I noticed when I was a small child that every time I went to visit my grandmother, her sweet potatoes were different. I was good at picking out spices when I was little. I was like, no, it's not the cinnamon. No, it's not the nutmeg. No, it's not the allspice, although that was the one that was really worked with all the flavors and was hard to pick out. Years later, as it happened, I was cooking something entirely different in my kitchen. I was thinking about tropical foods, and then it hit me. I had the epiphany. It was my eureka moment. My grandmother added crushed pineapple to her mashed sweet potatoes. Ta-da! Oh my God, an amazing thing. They add this lovely sweetness, and it complements your cloves and allspice, but it doesn't make them heavier. So instead of doing the marshmallows on top, I'm recommending that if you do like an 8-inch square casserole, try adding about a half can, mix in that half can of sweet potatoes, and see if your friends and family can figure that one out. It's wonderful, it's subtle, and it tastes remarkable.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, just crushed pineapple. So I'm just slicing up a few carrots.
And if you decide that you like, this ginger sweet potato muffin recipe, I would do that to add a little extra moisture. I'd throw in a little bit of pineapple in those. If you don't like crystallized ginger, there's an alternative right there. It could be very nice.
That's true.
You could have fall and summer at the same time.
I love it, which is kind of sort of what we had this past fall.
Right,
here
exactly,
in Vermont.
exactly. So relevant to what's happening here.
So muffins are going to need a few more minutes. In the meantime, though, we have got this great spread. So this sweet potato hummus can be the next day when, in some respects, everyone might be looking to eat a little lighter. It also becomes an awesome dish for all of the various sporting events that happen over the course of the entire holiday weekend.
I have another popular fall item here that you might like, slices of apple with this.
Together, apple and sweet potato are great together.
Yep.
But also we have this galette. We didn't get to a quinoa stuffing recipe. We'll just save that for another day. It's a fun one, but roasted veggies, sweet potatoes, gosh, really yummy things.
Yeah.
So I am excited to try a bunch of different veggies for the holidays.
Yeah, I
think
we've got some good things pulled together here.
We did, and I'm inspired. So next month, Donna Hunt will be joining me, and we'll be doing something healthy for the holidays as well. So we're going to keep this theme going, whether it's your social gatherings outside, how to manage those, or where you might be going. But we are kicking off the holidays in an awesome way.
I think so.
Thanks so much for coming. And
my pleasure.
I'm going to reach over here in a second, grab a carrot, and try this hummus.
All right.
So thanks, everyone. I guess because it's Thanksgiving week, I'm not going to go into the saying the HH stuff yet. We're going to wait. It's still fall. So happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy all of those awesome veggies, and I'll see you at the farmer's market.
Bye-bye.
Hey, ooh, yum.